Hey, so who likes Spider-Man? I like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's one of my favorite heroes of all time.
I think he's okay.
I really like Spider-Man. He's the spiderest of all the man. So we're talking about Spider-Man Far From Home, and we're going to do a spoiler-free review at first, and then we will give you guys a good old warning. You'll be able to vacate if you don't want to hear the spoilers.
So if you don't want to hear about Nick Fury dying or Aunt May secretly being a Skrull, don't worry, we'll save that for later. So let's start it off with what was your initial gut reaction after this movie was over?
After it was over? Well, why don't we start, Brian? You start.
It was fine. They tried out some new things with certain characters that I really liked. It's from how I feel right now. I think Homecoming had a better villain, but Far From Home had a better motive.
Yeah, the villain's plan in this one is it's creative. There's a lot going on, and I appreciate how it was.
I think I like this one a little bit better than Homecoming, and I really, really enjoyed Homecoming. I think Vulture is a better character in Homecoming than the villainous people we have in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I still really liked it, and I think I enjoyed the movie as a whole better.
I was actually sort of like on the warmer side of lukewarm with Homecoming, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't dislike Far From Homecoming, like, at all. In fact, there are some big moments in that movie that have stuck with me, but there are a lot of things in there that didn't really land as well as I'd hoped the first Marvel Spider-Man movie was going to. And there are things that this movie does that are just flat out better than Homecoming. There are also some things that I'm a little here or there on, but I can get more into those in the spoilers. Overall, though, I actually had a good time with this movie, and it's definitely got some of the best action that Spider-Man's had in a while. That's the one thing I took away from it. Also, it's really damn good looking in a lot of places.
Soundtrack's good too.
Yeah,
I like Far From Home more than Homecoming, and but Homecoming I think had the stronger villain. However, I will say that the villain in Far From Home I think had a very good thematic tie to what I think was the through line throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say, like, the actual plot itself is maybe better in this movie, and character is a little bit better in Home.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, honestly.
I also felt like this movie was sort of oddly paced.
Yeah.
And part of that is that it struggles with its with the classic 3-act structure, with the things that it wants to do and the way that it wants to do them. That being said, it's a very funny movie. It's a very good looking movie. Again, some of the best action that we've seen from Spider-Man. It's got a lot of really clever moments in it. It also has a lot to do with inheritance. And what you leave behind. And I found that to be very interesting.
It's very much a follow-up to what happened in Endgame and Infinity War.
Yep.
When it comes to his character and Tony's character. And I think that's why they decided to end this phase with this movie, because this is the end of Phase 3. It's not the beginning of Phase 4. And I think that's because this makes a pretty good epilogue to, like, all right, what comes next? Who's next? Why?
Yeah.
How do they feel about it?
Yeah, this movie was very, like, tying up the rest of the loose ends.
Yeah.
Along with kind of what Captain Marvel did, answering some questions throughout that saga.
Yeah.
This one kind of ties everything up, especially without getting into spoilers, with Tony.
Yeah.
And his actions.
Yeah, which trailers will tell you that. So
yeah,
that's
I mean,
yeah.
At this point, if you don't know that Tony bit it in Endgame, I mean,
yeah,
you're not.
You shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, you certainly shouldn't be watching this video.
This review, yeah.
Um,
I want to say that, like, when it comes to this movie, it maintains a lot of the things I really liked about Homecoming, while fixing some of the things I didn't like that much.
Mm-hmm.
In Homecoming, like particularly action. I think action is improved in this movie. It's not the best Spider-Man's ever been in terms of action. Still not there yet. Particularly, I think they need to chill out with moving the camera so much. Just because it's CG does not mean
you have to track the shots.
Yeah, like try keeping the camera a little more still, so that people can see your cool action that you're choreographing.
Yeah.
But I like that they're continuing this tone for Spider-Man movies, because I really like this tone for Spider-Man. this like halfway between high school, movie like Breakfast Club vibe mixed with superhero movie.
I will say this. So the overall arc with Peter is frustrating for me because I feel like after and I will talk about this more obviously in spoilers. After what happened in Homecoming, there is the arc that Peter has to go through in this one that I felt was a little regressed his character just a little bit. And there's a bit of that kind of frustrated me where after what happened in Homecoming and Endgame, it's like and part of that has to do with responsibility, which this seemed like the exact movie. Sorry, it's just tough to talk about.
I very much disagree, but we'll have to talk about that in the spoiler section. Which does anyone else have any non-spoiler thoughts? We're kind of dancing around it, but
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's hard. Unfortunately, there's a lot of little bits in the movie, which when you try to talk about them, you end up pulling that thread.
look, if I can give my summation of this movie, like here's the soundbite. Spider-Man Far From Home is a worthy sequel to Homecoming in almost every regard. While it has some problems with its 3-act structure due to how many things it's trying to spin and pull off
And
over
all
the
the
course of the
and all the
film.
locations.
And all of the locations, because it's basically it's a tour through Europe. Which
it's a vacation throughout Europe. Which again, that's the premise of the movie. So.
Yeah. While it does kind of struggle in that regard, it does have a interesting story with a lot of interesting twists, has a lot of clever moments, both for the characters and the story, is wonderfully acted. Every single person in this movie is just pulling it off.
Oh yeah.
And there are some fantastic action sequences that are easily a step above anything in Homecoming. And while I don't personally feel that it has as much emotional weight as some of the stuff in Homecoming, it's overall, I'd say, a better constructed film that delivers some pretty big game-changing moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I do recommend this movie. If you've been enjoying the Marvel stuff, obviously you want to check out this movie. If you like Spider-Man, this is a good Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
I think, this is a nice little lead-in into Phase 4 and a good peek into what you can expect from more Spider-Man movies, which is something I'm always interested in, especially with this version. Tom Holland is just a great Peter Parker.
Tom Holland is my favorite Peter Parker, bar none.
Yeah.
Bar none.
So Quinn and Brian, do you guys recommend this movie?
Yes, it is definitely. If you wanted to just take all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe sequels, like Thor 2, Captain America 2, put all those in a big box, this is definitely one of the cream of the crop. Winter Soldier is still pretty much my top of those, but this is definitely standing head and shoulders above the usual superhero sequel fare.
This movie does reward you for keeping up with all 23 in total movies now.
Yeah.
It references a lot of stuff. It rewards you for it. It does lead into Phase 4 stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's a solid sequel. A good theme and tone. I kind of want to say it's kind of got a bit of a dual theme for this movie, and I don't think this is really spoilery. I think it's the themes of this movie, if I could sum it up in 2 words, is inheritance and legacy. But yeah, I obviously I would recommend it as well. It's a nice, as you said, it's a nice epilogue for the Infinity Saga.
Yeah. That's it
Yeah, I
for
think
the
that
non-spoiler segment.
We
Yeah.
tried, guys.
Yep.
We tried.
we did pretty good. That was how many minutes? That was like 10 minutes of talking non-spoilers. That was what we wanted to do.
Yeah,
Now we're gonna jump into
yeah.
spoilers.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say, even if you watch the trailers, there's still a lot in this movie has to surprise you.
They did not show that much.
Yeah.
I literally had no idea what was going to be in this movie, except I knew Mysterio was in it, and I knew they went to Europe.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's see what they do.
Yeah, and luckily, most of the movie was not necessarily a surprise, but not seen in the trailers.
Yeah.
Cool. So spoiler review starting in 3, 2, 1. You better leave. Go, get out.
All right, now we're in spoiler territory.
Are you gone? Are they all gone? Okay.
Yes,
Welcome to Spoiler Town.
They Iron Man 3'd us.
I mean, not really.
Nah.
Oh, okay then.
Also, Iron Man 3 is great, but
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
You know what? Fuck yeah. I will
People who don't
fucking.
like
Damn it,
Iron Man
this
3
completely
are
backfired. This backfired completely.
people don't like Iron Man 3 are wrong.
I agree. Like 100%.
But also, what do you mean by that? Let's get this.
So here's the thing. Aside from knowing that Mysterio is Spider-Man's usual villain, not in any way his ally,
Right.
I do not dip into the comics. So the fact that his whole routine was smoke and mirrors was new to me. I just knew for a fact that one, he was gonna be faking it somehow after the fight in Prague with the fire elemental. That after he tried to do the whole sacrifice thing and then came out, I was like, I'm fine. It's like, okay, no, this is BS.
Yeah.
But I was thinking before that he was a genuine magic user.
Mysterio has never been a genuine magic user. He's always been smokes, mirrors, and illusions.
Yes.
So it's actually extremely true to the character to obviously have that that heel turn, which is expected but really well executed, I think.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the strongest elements of this movie, is that he's gonna turn. We were like, when is he gonna turn? When?
Yeah.
And when it happened and when it was executed, it was done so well.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal literally, it's a more charismatic version of him playing that journalist in Nightcrawler.
Very different take of Jake Gyllenhaal that I think I've seen in like a lot of his movies.
He's really good.
Yeah, he
is using his charisma on all cylinders in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he has to, because that's really the only way this character was going to work.
Yeah, he's almost a cult leader in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So since we're talking about Mysterio, I wanted to point out, I almost brought this up earlier, but man, I love that in both of Spider-Man's outings, his villains have been leftovers from spurned ex-lovers of Tony Stark.
Yeah, someone that Tony Stark either wronged or perceived to be wronged.
Yeah, for Mysterio, for Jake Gyllenhaal's character this time around, that was deliberate spurning. He went on stage, not only took credit for his invention,
but called it something stupid,
but called it barf.
Yeah.
So that's why, and Brian, I think you hit the nail on the head. The biggest theme here was legacy,
because
what Tony left behind, for better or worse.
Yeah. Because not only did Peter inherit a lot of the good that Tony has, but also a lot of Tony's baggage. Throughout the movie, there are murals of Iron Man and Tony. Every new location you see a mural.
Yeah.
And it's very visually telling you Peter is trying so hard to stay true to Tony's legacy and be the next Iron Man, because that was a buzz phrase in the trailer.
Yeah.
The next Iron Man, the next Iron Man. It wasn't just a one-man job. It was a bunch of disgruntled Stark Industry employees.
I really liked the whole Ocean's 11 toast to everybody and individually crediting them, and that's their Ocean's 11.
And their role.
This is how we did
Everyone played a role. One guy made the drones. One person made the holograms. One person wrote a script.
Yeah,
they got a screenwriter to write the story.
And the thing is, all those people are still out there.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is still out there. The only one that potentially got taken care of, which presumably he did.
Air quotes.
Yeah. Is Mysterio. And everyone else is still around. And that one guy, I don't know if he was actually in Iron Man 1, but it looked like he was.
That was the thing that really surprised me, was it wasn't a one-man job. It was a entourage of pissed off ex-Stark Industry employees.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great.
Yeah, it was really good. I really liked that it was a group effort.
Yeah.
Quentin Beck was not one guy. It was a facade created by writers and
what I love is when you referenced him as a cult leader, he does kind of act like a cult leader with the other employees.
Absolutely.
Especially the rehearsal scene.
Oh yeah.
The rehearsal scene with the air elemental. I was just like, oh my god.
But it's also it's a little bit culty, and now also very much obviously the actual film industry. He's wearing a real mocap suit.
Yep.
I love. Oh my god.
And he's directing, which I don't know if Jake Gyllenhaal's directed anything. He might have, but he's at least worked with a lot of directors, so he knows how they talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, that whole segment. So I will say we have talked a little bit about how Mysterio is a weaker villain than the Vulture, but he's still a great villain in this movie.
Yeah, that was what I was saying during the non-spoiler part. He is tied to the theme very well.
Yes.
And I'd even say he's a way better villain than Vulture, but his character was was given a little bit more meat.
Yeah.
So the character was better, but as a villain, Mysterio I think is way better.
Scott, you were starting something during non-spoiler, and Stefan, I know you disagree. I think I agree with you in disagreeing with him.
Yeah.
So
but,
let's go back to
explain your
that.
problem with Peter's character arc in this movie, so we can tell you why you're wrong.
It's so after everything that happened in Homecoming, where he has his big damn hero moment where he gets up and says, "I want to be a hero," and goes through all of that, and then goes to outer space to fight Thanos, and save his world. He is told, "Hey, the other Avengers are busy. We have a possible world-ending threat. We need your help." And he does nothing but whine and bitch and moan about how he can't have his school vacation and get with the girl he likes. And I'm like, you know what? If you told me I'm exhausted and I'm overwhelmed and I can't handle this, I'd get it. But it doesn't play that way. Through the scenes where he's talking about what he'd rather be doing than being the hero he fought to be, and that bothered me. Like, instead of actually like having a portraying a good reason, it just comes off as this petulant, I don't know.
I will say I can very, very, very vehemently disagree with you.
Me
here.
too. I think there's a definite difference in scope in what we're dealing with.
And also,
This might be a 3v1.
Hey, you know,
let's fight.
I didn't get any whiny vibe off him at all. Like he was pretty just upfront. Like, hey, I kind of like you seem like you have this handled. Why do you need me? I'm not that special. I didn't do anything against the water guy. He doesn't think he's even needed for this. He doesn't think he's that ready for anything or special.
If I may.
Yeah.
Also, before those conversations happened, before he left for Europe, remember, this is post blip. So that's post snap. Everyone's back. He stowed away on an alien ship in Infinity War.
Yeah.
He just wanted to help, but also before they left for Europe, Peter got extremely overwhelmed when he realized, "Oh my God, I'm potentially going to be wearing the Iron Man mantle."
Right.
Remember when all the press was just... He had a panic attack.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
When all of that responsibility just crashed on a 17-year-old kid's shoulders.
16.
Yeah,
16.
I think there is a massive difference between him wanting to be a hero and a part of that larger. Like he didn't
want to be the hero.
He wanted to be Tony's apprentice.
He wanted to help.
Yeah, he wanted to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But then the neighborhood turned into the cosmos.
Well,
and he died.
And you know what? You make a fair point. And you know, if you take it as this whole and look at it, yeah, I'll agree with you. But yeah, there were just segments. There were just a lot of parts where that wasn't clicking for me, and I feel like that had to do with the lines in particular, the way that they were trying to tell those parts. It didn't click with me as well as I feel like they wanted it to.
I think at this point, the more interesting thing to talk about is you can also see that as like very much a meta thing of Tom Holland is also basically taking up the mantle of being the person for this franchise now.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
He's now the icon of Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not RDJ anymore. It's him.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Peter's motivation is really strong in this movie, especially like in the last movie, he landed on, I'm not ready for all this. I don't need to do all this right now. I'm gonna stay close to the ground. And then as soon as he decides that, that's when the world decides, nope, you're the biggest hero in the world right now.
Yeah, no. In fact, he even just stumbled into becoming an Avenger.
Yeah.
By just following the ship. It's like, oh, I guess I'm here now.
Yep.
I do love how this entire fucking film is one giant metaphor for, well, Tony Stark's now out of the MCU. Hey, Spider-Man, you have to take over. Have fun.
Yeah, and it's a big lead into Phase 4. It gives you lots of stuff like, all right, here's what comes next.
Oh, yeah.
And it did hook me. Like, and I knew they were going to because, frankly, these guys are really smart. Like, Kevin Feige's really good at making sure. They're really good at, like, as soon as you start getting fatigued with something Marvel's doing, they're like, all right, we're going to change it up now.
You.
And they do it every single time, and they're really good at that.
Yeah,
it's almost more of a marketing thing than a storytelling thing, but it's partly storytelling.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
no, those end credit scenes, both of them, the mid credits and the end credits, were both like, guess what? You're coming back if you care anything about these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like teasers for the future of the Marvel Universe to
Yeah,
tide
definitely.
you over while you have to watch the Eternals and the Black Widow movie. Where it's
And
like, who cares?
Shang-Chi.
which like a bunch of stuff where it's like, okay, next year you're not getting anything you necessarily want. Like the Black Widow movie is not the future of Black Widow; it's a prequel. It's like
It's the
she's
Black
dead
Wi-
already.
Yeah, it's the Widow movie
Yeah.
we should have made like 5 years ago,
Right?
but we're just getting around to it.
Yeah, but we talked a whole lot about Mysterio and Peter's
Arc.
character arc through the movie.
Yeah. And those are kind of the most important parts of the film, really.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I actually want to talk about like I really really love all the high school stuff in these movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never tired of it.
You know, it's really interesting because a lot of the time I can go here or there on you know, the civvy stuff, the civilian stuff, unless it very much ties into the story or the character.
It's just
But-
so endearing when they do it here.
Yeah.
And part of that has to do with the fact that, first of all, the actors for these kids are all fantastic.
Oh, they're
yeah.
great.
yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a specific bit about the kind of love triangle they set up, mostly just to give Peter kind of like a civvy side rival.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting triangle they set up because it was very much this was between Peter, MJ, and Brad, I believe his name was.
Brad.
Yes. One guy who was able to grow up during the blip while everyone else just came back.
Yeah.
The blip, the other name for the snap.
Yeah, they
Well,
renamed.
yeah,
They
no.
gave the snap the dumbest in-universe name
I
possible.
have,
blip.
I have words about how they rationalize the blip, but to go back to Love Triangle, I found that very interesting because it was Brad was not getting anything from NJ.
Nope.
He was definitely it was unrequited love.
Yeah.
But he recognized that Peter was just being awful to her. Like taking the Spider-Man thing into isolation, which was resolved by the end of the movie because she deduced it.
Yeah.
Because there was that specific scene when they went to the opera and MJ makes room for Peter. Peter has to ditch.
Yeah.
Brad moves in, sees Peter,
And flips
Flips
them
him the
off.
bird.
I think, and that's me kind of picking out subtext. I think he was flipping Peter off not because he's like, F you, I get to go with the girl now. It was very much you're an asshole.
He thinks
Peter.
Peter's like a two-timing.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
Yeah.
he thinks
A
like
charlatan.
he does things. Brad does things specifically to his advantage. He takes a deliberate
Oh, yeah, no.
picture of Peter in a compromising position
with that covert ops woman.
yes,
Yeah.
to elevate his position with MJ, or rather take Peter down a peg. But
Yeah.
he cares about MJ.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's why he was doing that stuff to Peter.
I will say that's the one thing that scene with the covert ops lady is like.
Take off your clothes.
I knew what the
Yeah,
gag
no,
was
that
gonna be.
was
Yeah.
lock
I knew
the
that
door.
line was going to be said. And it's
Yeah.
like one of those things like, that's a little forced. I like what they did with it when they got there, but they kind of had to be a bit.
Oh yeah, that was
Eh.
contrived.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to sugarcoat it.
It's
That
very
was-
like almost like anime bullshit. Like
I mean,
And
yeah.
they never measured the shit. Was the whole gag with it being tied around the crotch is because it never got tailored?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I guess that's a nice way to kind of tie it back, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to say like I really liked all the high school kids are always fun. Unfortunately, we didn't get some of the fun kids from the last movie.
I was
Yeah.
I was actually happy to see a somewhat reduced role of Ned in this film because I don't hate Ned, but I felt like
But I think we got just enough of him. In
yeah,
this one.
no, I
Yeah.
felt like they used him to the fullest extent we needed Ned. MJ gets a big she's the love interest in this film and
Yep.
she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Zendaya is I didn't know that was Zendaya, by the way, and so had some fun with Zendaya as Michi.
Zendaya is
It's
MJ.
Michi. Yeah, there you go. And I fucking love her. I love her to death. She is so much fun.
Yeah, no, like Zendaya and Tom Holland have so much chemistry.
Oh yeah.
Like apparently they're like the best friends in the
Oh
world.
yeah, they're besties. It's
Um,
adorable.
And yeah, they're just so great together on screen, and you're rooting for them. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I just realized?
Hmm.
So for everybody at home, the stream has that camera, but I've been looking at this one a lot. So a lot of people at home are just watching me look off to the
Yeah.
side while I talk about this stuff.
yeah, on YouTube, you get a very special experience.
Yeah.
The stream live people aren't getting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Zendaya is perfect. MJ is perfect. As sad as I am not to have actual Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy, she is the love interest that this Peter Parker needs
Oh, yeah.
in this day and age.
Yeah, she's great. And obviously, this MJ is not any other version of MJ. Like, she's a little bit Ultimate MJ, but only just a tad. Like, this is goth girl. Like, MJ, which has never really been a
smokes
thing.
in the girls' room, kind of.
Yeah.
like that 80s.
She's not that tough.
Yeah.
But she likes to play it. And you see that a lot in this movie. She gets a lot more levels in this movie than she did in Homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Oh yeah.
Like the bit where he's like, I am Spider-Man. She's like, oh, seriously? I was kind of guessing.
It's only like 67% sure.
Yeah.
I think a segment that I really liked was when he's like, "You're really pretty." Oh, what? So that means I have value? Oh, that's not what I'm joking. Thank you. And I'm like, cool. Like you're.
Yeah, she deflected, but she really likes the compliment.
Yeah, she's not a dick, but she also
she's
recognizes.
a bit standoffish.
Well,
yeah.
and the important thing is she recognizes the standards of society. She
Mhm.
understands these ideas and concepts that are at play, and she is more than happy to play with them and also reject them when she feels like they're unhealthy.
Yeah.
But understands when like it's harmless, it's fine, it's nice, and that's something that's really interesting about her character. And
she's actually pretty key to a theme that does run throughout the movie, which is truth.
yeah,
Yep.
Very important theme throughout the movie that we haven't touched on yet, because it's made very clear that MJ cares a lot about truth. And obviously Quentin Beck does not. That like his whole thing is basically something that very much seems like a commentary on the times, where it's like the truth can be whatever you want it to be. People will believe anything.
Oh yeah, no, in the era of deep fake, where
Yeah.
Mysterio
Oh,
is
God.
essentially
And
one
of
giant
course-
deep fake.
And of course, all that theme culminates in the mid credit
yeah.
scene,
Yes.
where J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson returns as Alex Jones.
They even used the font for InfoWars.
Yeah, and like the ultimate the ultimate epitome of like, yeah, like it's the truth is not relative, but some people will present you a different truth and present it as news, and like all that stuff. Like
Yep.
very much commentary on modern stuff.
I
Yep.
almost wonder if the sequel to this is going to be how people choose the truth, like whatever they believe is more palatable to them.
It'll obviously, like, especially the way it ends, because they end it on a note that I didn't expect them to.
I didn't
do.
either.
I thought they were gonna like pull back just before it hit, like where people would be speculating, but
Yeah,
no, they just say Peter Parker is
and
Spider-Man.
it shows a picture of him. Like,
Yeah.
was that part of the original feed, or was that something the Daily Bugle did?
Yeah, but either way, Daily Bugle, that's like the most unethical thing they could possibly do. Broadcasting the face of a teenager and calling them a murderer without actual proof.
You know what's
Yeah.
worse? The fact that the actual news sources actually pulled the entire video from the Daily Bugle.
Right?
Like
Yep.
it's like they did no cutting.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's going to be. That's going to be like the crux of the movie. Like
Yep.
it's going to be about that. And my theory for the next villain is Kraven the Hunter.
dude,
And
I
he
want
and he has
Kraven
the perfect
so
reason.
bad.
Yeah.
He has the perfect reason to hunt down Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's an evil maniac killer. So
The
Kraven the Hunter
deadliest game.
doesn't have to be a bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
just-
ready for my Russian hunter man.
Oh yeah,
wanted
no,
to
and
hunt down
that's
Spider-Man.
like who's not going to be in the line of fire for that?
Yeah.
Like that's everyone.
Yeah.
But then of course we have the post-credit scene, which if the mid-credit scene was the kind of thing to be for Spider-Man, you have the post-credit scene being this is where we're taking the entire MCU
Yeah.
with Nick Fury. Oh my gosh, Nick Fury and Maria Hill end up having been Talos and his wife through the
Yeah.
entire movie.
Yep.
And
they
Nick
were
Fury
Skrull.
is somewhere else with a whole group of Skrulls.
Nick Fury's in space on a spaceship with a bunch of Skrulls, and it seems like he's kind of running shit.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
needs his shoes.
leading a legion of Skrull in space.
Yeah, which leads me to think that like something I speculated on in the car is that like, okay, so what if secret invasion is going to happen,
But it's
but
Fury.
Nick Fury is the person actually creating the invasion, because they make a big deal out of Nick Fury does not have the influence he had. He does not have the information he used to have. He's basically lost all control.
Yep.
Yep.
And this may be a big part of like, yeah, Secret Invasion is actually Nick Fury trying to get his control back. Something he lost gradually as Shield died and all that stuff. Where it's just like, nope, you don't have anything you used to have, and maybe him.
And it makes sense because when you look at Nick Fury's character in the MCU as a whole, this was a person who knew everything. And then fucking Winter Soldier happened. Oh, so, an organization he trusted for decades was corrupted by Hydra. Then, of course, his perception of reality changed with every movie, Avengers. And then, of course, the snap happened. He comes back from a 5-year, hiatus, and he realizes everything changed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even Mysterio said, or not, who was it that called Nick? Yeah, it was Mysterio, that Nick Fury, the most paranoid and most dangerous man on the planet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's my. I think my pretty good theory is about Kraven the Hunter. My crackpot theory is Secret Invasion is happening and Nick Fury is the person leading
So
it.
in retrospect, there was an interesting hint that Nick Fury and Marie Hill were not who they were. They were Skrulls. As there's that side conversation, I forget when it happens. I think it's after they go to Berlin,
Okay.
where they start talking about a Kree sleeper cell. And it seems like Marie Hill is chastising Nick Fury for having to just happen to stumble upon that sleeper cell.
Mm.
And I listened to that and I'm like, are you helping out Captain Marvel right now? And then later on, it makes more sense that
Yeah.
Talos is just still being
Talos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something you pointed out that the minute you mentioned it, it hit me. The right before the credit sequence when he's swinging to meet MJ.
Yeah, we see what is probably the Baxter Building, which this has been a theory
yeah.
for a while.
When you mentioned that, you can ask these two. When I was driving, I almost lost my shit when you mentioned that.
Yeah. So what used to be Avengers Tower, it was getting rebuilt before.
It has a
Now
nice
it's been
garden in
fully
the middle.
rebuilt. Yeah.
Yep.
Now it's been fully rebuilt. It has this cool little garden in the middle of it, and it's probably the Baxter Building. That's what everyone thinks, because why else would you keep showing that building?
Because it's
rebuilt?
in the exact spot where Avengers Tower was.
Yeah.
And that property got sold.
Yeah, and then now it's gotten fully rebuilt, and yeah, so. Other theory that a lot of other people are also theorizing, which is that that's the Baxter Building. I really hope it is, because
Me too.
that's a great home for the Fantastic Four, something that is been a second home of the Avengers.
Yep.
For a long time.
I absolutely.
And Peter.
Yeah.
I'm killing to see the Fantastic Four. It's so interesting that we've had 2 Spider-Man movies, and these hallmarks of Spider-Man have taken so long to come around.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm kind of glad though. I like this periodic, because I want to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man grow up, go to college, get a job. I want to see him grow up instead of time to reset him back to a teenager again.
Don't do. I swear to God.
I mean, that's just one more day. But that,
Yeah, I know.
why have one more day when you have just a movie reboot?
But yeah, we might with this Spider-Man, we might get Parker Industries.
I'm thinking that too.
It seems like it'd be appropriate for this version of Spider-Man.
I mean, especially when the scene when he makes his suit.
Yeah.
The way Happy looks at Peter when he's making the new
Oh
suit.
my God! I'm so glad that they don't say it.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
great. And Pepper would obviously invest, and so would Happy, invest in Peter making a company. I could see people investing in Peter making a business, and maybe that involving Otto Octavius in some way. But I'd also like to see Norman Osborn at some point. I'm really interested in seeing where they go. I'm very excited to see the Fantastic Four, whatever that turns out to be.
Yeah.
If Brad Bird's directing.
You brought that up earlier, and it took me a minute.
You didn't like
but
it at first. But...
Yeah, no, I've come around to the idea of Brad Bird making the Final Fantasy, the Fantastic Four.
Brad Bird's Final Fantasy.
The spirits within.
But yeah, I like that they've been avoiding, as someone in the comments is noting, I like that they've been avoiding villains we've seen before on film.
Yeah.
And I like to see them continue to do that. But I do want Norman Osborn eventually, because he's so important.
I hope in the next movie that it's so difficult, because in this movie we barely get any of the classic Spider-Man. None of it. He's no quips in this movie, not a single one when he's Spider-Man, because
He actually started doing it in the drone fight. I was hearing them. But
Yeah,
it's
there were
really
there
hard
were
to catch
definitely
it.
there were a few in London. There was, in fact, I heard one. I'm like, oh wow, I haven't heard that in a while. Spider-Man quipping while swinging.
And I understand why not, considering the way that the story is structured and everything that happens. But
yeah.
Spider-Man, for me, that part of my enjoyment is that factor of the character. And I know that where we are in the cinematic universe, there have been all these huge game-changing events, and that's kind of the reason I hate having young Peter Parker be part of the Avengers. It completely upheaves Spider-Man's character, because he can't be the crime-fighting jokester who struggles on his own. It's almost impossible to do that in these films now, because now there's so many other huge things going on. But I don't know. It's tough, because
We never talked about the mechanics of the blip the movie just happened to
Oh,
introduce.
yeah, this is pretty funny when
Yeah,
you think
it's
about
a
it.
small
So,
thing.
thanks to the lovely student video, complete
In
with
the beginning.
complete with Comic Sans font
And Getty images.
stock images, yeah, we get to find out that first of all, the Thanos' snap became known as the blip,
Yeah.
and then when the Hulk brings everyone back into Endgame, that he apparently brings them back in the exact same state they were in right as they were dusted.
State and
Which-
location.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the video, we see a humorous image of half of a marching band going away and then coming back 5 years later, and one of them
In the
gets-
middle of a basketball
Yeah,
game.
and one gets
Yep.
slammed in the head with a basketball. But it has some very disturbing implications of what about all these people in the cars,
Like pilots.
and airplanes,
Yeah,
and what happened today? Did they just happen to reappear in the middle of the street,
yeah.
in the middle of the air?
A lot of people stopped existing, re-existed 5 years later, and then immediately died a horrible death.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, you can say they at least somewhat dealt with the consequences of some people aging 5 years and some people not.
Yeah,
But-
they actually talked about it, and I appreciate that, and that's probably
Yeah.
why some people are missing.
Yeah,
Where it's like they didn't get
yeah, they
dusted away.
graduated. They
Yeah.
didn't
Grew
have-
up.
They didn't have to. They
Yep.
didn't have to go back to school.
Which by the way, I will make a quick note as we wind down. I also really liked Betty Brant and Ned's
Oh yeah, that was
relationship.
really cute, and it never like goes off the rails. I was waiting
And it's
for
very
it some-
teenager, where like they're super lovey-dovey and they're just done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's at no point I was expecting like, oh, they start fighting or he starts like getting angry about it, like, oh man, this is the worst idea I ever had. No,
That's
it just
actually pretty
it just
healthy. Where like it's just great, and then it runs out of steam and they're done.
Yeah.
Just
And they end
let's be
civilly,
friends.
too.
yeah, right.
They end in a civil way, too, which
Yeah.
was great.
So maybe if we want to wrap up, do we want to have pick a favorite line from the movie?
Favorite line, that's gonna be
Oh,
difficult.
Jesus.
Maybe favorite moment, that might be easier.
One of my favorite action scenes in the entire sequence is when he finally trusts his spider sense.
Yeah,
Or
And-
Peter Tingle.
Yeah, the Peter Tingle.
that was gonna be mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, like Peter's Jedi moment is I think the best utilization of his spider sense we've seen.
yeah.
God, that's so fucking good.
It was a really good scene, and that's the one where like the camera's not moving too much, and so you can see stuff
It was
really well.
It was a nice medium shot, and it just and it doesn't
Yeah.
whip around. It just tracks,
yeah,
which is nice. Something that I actually liked, like to kind of go with your qualifier for favorite line. It's the you got me, and all of a sudden Maria Hill launches the RPG on that
Yeah.
drone. I got you.
yeah.
Also, man, that illusion sequence is a fucking trip.
I'm glad they decided to go ham with it. Like that's one of those things where they obviously just let the special effects team handle it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like have fun.
Yeah,
And it's so interesting because on one hand, I was like, there's no way you could get the technology could do this. All of this is ridiculous and over the top and impossible.
I actually I really bought it because he kept landing on places where he wasn't supposed to. Like to him, this is what he was seeing.
Yeah.
but it didn't reflect anything in reality, of course.
Mhm.
But it's such a cool fucking moment. Like everything that happens feels directly out of an illusion sequence.
Yeah,
and it's
and
amazing.
they decided to go crazy with it. They didn't.
Yeah.
It became an animated movie for a bit, and a really good one when it comes to trippy imagery and just a Doctor Strange moment, basically.
The fucking
Yeah.
zombie Iron Man.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, no, that
part
was
is
bad.
Marvel zombies confirmed.
My favorite scene came pretty early in the movie when Nick Fury finally got the drop on. Well, we
Oh,
realized later it was Talos,
yes.
but got the drop on Peter, and he's trying to give that typical, spy briefing about, 22 hours ago we detected this EMP pulse. And
Keep
he's just
knocking on the
constantly
door.
getting people knocking on the door, and it finally comes to the point where it's like, next person knocks on that door will be attending another funeral.
yeah.
Yeah, I will say since Scott already took my favorite moment, I will say, I really like the moment where he's building his suit. Even though Spider-Man should always have blue in his suit, and the black doesn't look as good.
I agree.
I still liked the symbolism of him building his own suit,
Yeah.
and deciding what goes into his own suit.
Yep.
And also, I didn't miss Karen. She wasn't in this movie.
Oh my god! Thank
Yeah.
God. I'm sorry, Karen.
I liked Karen in the first movie, but I didn't miss her for this one.
Well, I mean, I'm on the same vein as you. I think it also makes perfect sense because I don't think they ever established that any AI was in the Iron Suit, and
Yeah.
he never went back to the first one.
Yeah, and so while I really enjoyed Karen in Homecoming, I'm glad they dropped her for this one.
I never liked Karen. I actually actively disliked Karen because Karen is Tony saying, "I got one of these. You're gonna have one of these too," and overloading Spider-Man with all these gadgets and stuff. I'm like, damn it. I don't need
Well,
Spider-Man to have a billion different
But
things that he can do.
That was the point.
I know.
He was,
That was the
yeah,
point.
she was. And
You're
she was
just
also-
going against the grain.
Yeah, she was also a bit of a babysitter.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And I'm like, I want Peter and aka Spider-Man to kind of exist as
Look, we all
his
want
own
Peter
hero.
and Spider-Man, okay?
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, just I always felt like Karen was, let's introduce this extra element to shake things up, and I'm like,
well, and also it gave Peter a reason to talk to himself,
Yeah.
which is what Peter Parker does. But if he does it in a movie, it's weird.
Yeah.
But when you give him an AI to talk to, he can talk to himself,
yeah,
which is what Spider-Man does. And you notice in this movie, he didn't talk to himself as much because it's kind of hard to do.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
So I think that's what you lose when you lose Karen, is that finding an actual reason for him to talk to nobody, but kind of be talking to the audience.
Yeah.
And I'll say shout out to Chris McKenna, one of the screenwriters of this movie. He's hitting out of the park with his screenplays recently because he also did the new Jumanji movie, which is a very fun movie.
oh yeah, no, that was really good.
He did Ant-Man and the Wasp, which not the best movie in the world, but like very, very fun, inventive action. And this movie also had some better action, and I think we're going to see a lot more of Chris McKenna in future MCU films.
Oh, yeah.
Also, one of the main writers of Community. He wrote a lot of the best
Oh,
episodes.
that sounds right.
Man,
Yeah.
the Community writers are just going all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Everyone
actually.
in Community, like who's involved in any way, is getting bigger in some way.
What
It's
about
just one of those shows.
McFeely? Scott McFeely. Was he in anything else besides the Avengers Endgame and Infinity War screenwriter?
I don't know. Like he mostly worked with the Russos, I believe.
Yeah.
So he might just be moving on with the Russos. I don't know. But
Oh.
he didn't work on this one.
All right. Well,
That's it. I think we're done
Yep.
with this. So thank you guys for watching. And Iron Man 3 is one of the best MCU movies. And if you disagree, you're wrong.
I agree.
Bye.
Did you